You're entering the spiral, where fear echoes and reality fractures. Welcome to Fear Spiral.
Whispers from Ward 9.
I never believed in haunted places. Not really. I'm a psychiatric nurse, trained in science, medication, behavior, ghost stories. Those were for campfires and children. But what happened to me at St. Edivaine's mental hospital changed everything. It started in early September. I was assigned a temporary post. 3 months at a long-abandoned facility in upstate New York. It had just been bought out for renovation. They needed a small team to assess the old patient records, digitize what we could, and shut down the old archive. It sounded boring. Safe. Easy pay. The building, though it was anything but, it stood like a corpse in the woods. Tall, grey, and silent. Vines choked its brick walls. Windows were boarded up. Only the main entrance had been cleared, and even that door moaned like something alive when we pushed it open. There were 3 of us on the assignment. Me, Dr. Hayworth, a quiet but kind psychologist, and Marla, a records technician with a habit of humming nervously. Ward 9 was our focus. The oldest part of the hospital, formerly reserved for severe delusions and treatment-resistant cases. They closed it off years before the hospital shut down. No one wanted to talk about why, but every hallway in Ward 9 felt wrong. Not dangerous exactly, just wrong, like the air itself was watching. We set up in the old nurses' station, dust-covered files stacked ceiling high. Dr. Hayworth brought an ancient desktop. Marla had her scanner, I had coffee, and a sense I shouldn't have come. It was on the 3rd night that I found the file. Not filed, not stored, hidden. I was organizing a rusted cabinet near the back of the nurse S station, when one drawer jammed halfway. I tugged to nothing, so I crouched and shined my flashlight inside. There, wedged far in the back, like something meant to be forgotten, was a single manila folder. Its label was barely legible, faded ink smeared across dust-stained paper, but one line still stood out. Patient 441, do not move. Not do not misplace. Not confidential, just do not move. As if moving it meant something more than Curious and maybe a little stupid, I opened it. The folder felt colder than the air around it. Inside were handwritten notes, weathered and yellowed. Some were dated as far back as 1957, while others had no date at all. The formatting varied. Some reports were formal, some frenzied. Scrawls, notes in margins. No printed documents. But what unsettled me wasn't the patient history. It was that the patient's name was blacked out. In every document, even the earliest entries, thick black ink scribbled over again and again. Even stranger were the reading markings in the margins. Like someone else had found this file before me and gone mad trying to document what they saw. He's still here. Ward 9 never sleeps. Don't look in the mirror. 441 isn't alone. Each message more erratic. Some written sideways, some scratched so deeply into the paper they tore through it. I showed it to Dr. Hayworth later that evening. He examined it in silence, flipping through each page with a calm expression. Then he finally said, "Looks like some nurse had a nervous breakdown. Old buildings do that. The isolation, the repetition. You start seeing patterns." I nodded, but something in his tone sounded forced. That night, while Marla scanned intake records nearby, I stayed at the nurses' station, thumbing through more of 441's file. One entry mentioned, "Subject claims to hear voices inside walls. Says the walls breathe. Insists there's another ward inside the ward." Another report detailed a week-long isolation experiment. The notes simply ended mid-sentence. No conclusion. No summary. Then, at 11:47 p.m., I heard it. A low humming. At first I thought it was Marla. She always hummed softly while working. Some nervous tick. But the sound was wrong. Too slow, too deliberate. It wasn't coming from the workstation beside me, it echoed from down the hall. From the direction of room 12. I stood, instinctively grabbing my flashlight. "Marla," I called out. No response. The humming stopped. I turned and found Marla standing behind me, pale and wide-eyed. "I didn't make that sound," she whispered. Her hands were shaking. Her scanner was still on the desk. We both turned toward the hall, and even though the air was still, I swear I heard something whisper, "You found his file." The next morning felt wrong. The kind of wrong you can name like a dream still clinging to your skin after waking. The corridors looked the same. our workstation untouched. Marla avoided my gaze, her usual sarcastic tone gone. She barely spoke. Hayworth, as usual, pretended nothing was off. You two look like you've seen a ghost, he said, with a smile, sipping stale coffee. Neither of us laughed. I didn't sleep the night before. I couldn't, not after what we heard. It echoed in my head like tonight's low, constant, accusing, and I kept seeing something in the corner of my eye, just movement, at the edge of vision, always near the walls. That afternoon, I returned to 441's file, against my better judgment, and tucked inside now appearing as if it had always been there was a new page, one I hadn't seen before. It had no date, no author, just a single line in trembling handwriting. The walls scratched back. I stared at it for minutes. Something about the way the letters leaned, almost shaking, made my hands go cold. When I finally looked up, the walls had scratches, dozens of them. Thin, ragged lines carved deep into the plaster along the nurse's station, as if clawed from the inside. I called Marla. She came running, then froze when she saw them. I swear, those weren't there before, she whispered. Hayworth arrived seconds later. Are you too serious? He scoffed. This is an old facility. Rats, expansion, erosion. That's what this is. Don't let your nerves create ghosts. But the scratches looked fresh. And later, as we reviewed old patient logs, we found the name patient 441 in places it didn't belong. Scribbled in margins, stuffed into intake logs from other wards. Some of these files predated the founding of St. Edivane. How was that possible? Even stranger, one typed report read as follows. 441 transferred from Southridge Asylum, 1932. Subject displayed extreme auditory hallucinations, mirrorphobia, and antispatial delusions. Upon transfer, Southridge burned to the ground. That name, again, Southridge Asylum. I'd never heard of it. A quick search on my tablet returned no results. Not even in medical history archives gone. Erased. Like someone wanted it that way. That night, around 2:13 a.m., I awoke on the cot we kept in the break room. Not because of a sound, but because of the silence. A thick, unnatural stillness pressed down on everything, like sound itself had been a slow scraping, like nails, a crossword, coming from just outside the break room door. I sat up, heart pounding. Another scrape, closer, then a whisper, low, inhuman, right behind the door. He's not locked in. He never was. I froze, didn't breathe, didn't move. The whisper continued, incoherent murmurs, layered over each other like multiple mouths speaking at once. I clenched my jaw, reached for my flashlight, and knocked it over by mistake. The sound was like an explosion in the quiet. The whispering stopped. I stood there in the dark, holding my breath, until the door slowly creaked open on its own. Nothing was there, only the hallway empty. But now the scratches ran all along the walls, like something had been crawling. I stayed late that night. Marla and Hayworth had already left, but something kept pulling at me. The 441 file was open on my desk, but it was empty, except for one photograph, a cracked, dust-covered mirror, and a single word written beneath it. Reflected, I shut the file and decided to find the room. Room 12, according to the facility map. There was no room 12 on this floor, but something felt off the hallway. Near the end had a section that seemed slightly misaligned, like the wall was hiding something. I tapped it. It sounded hollow. Then I heard it. A faint scratching, like fingernails from inside the wall. I pressed against the panel and it gave way. A hidden door. Behind it was room 12, a small, cold space, with a single mirror bolted to the wall. Dust hung heavy in the air, the stench of mildew and something metallic. But it was the mirror that froze me in place. It didn't reflect light, right? It didn't reflect me, right? I stepped closer. My face stared back, but the eyes were wrong. They weren't blinking. I started to back away when I heard a voice, soft and near my ear. I spun around, nothing, but the reflection had changed. Another face, not mine. Pale, hollow eyes, a mouth stretched too wide, a grin that didn't move. It leaned forward, whispering, "You opened the door." I bolted from the room, but when I stepped back into the hallway, it had changed. The walls were smeared in something dark, and written in dripping red. 441 was just the beginning. My head spun. I had to tell Marla and Hayworth, but when I rushed into the break room, it was empty. Just Marla's scanner, her headphones, and her tablet still recording. The screen displayed the time stamp, 6:13 a.m. the exact time I thought she was asleep. Marla was gone the next morning. Her thermos was still on the desk, her headphones too, even her scanner sat blinking with low battery. But she was nowhere to be found. No message, no call, no sign of struggle. I searched the whole floor, every patient room, every storage closet, even the restricted wing near the collapse. The one we agreed never to enter. Still, nothing. When I told Hayworth, he barely looked up from his coffee. She probably left, he said flatly. People break under stress. Isolation, fear. He was drinking from her mug. That moment broke something in me. He didn't care. Stormed off to the break room, furious, and that's when I saw it. Her tablet, shoved beneath the cart, still powered on, still recording. The screen displayed a live waveform, timestamp, 6:13 a.m. That was after I'd last seen her. I tapped, play, silence. Then footsteps. Marla's voice, whispering. Dylan was right. There is a room 27. I followed the scratches. I think it's moving, then static, then again. Her voice. I saw something in the mirror. It wasn't me. It knows our names. Then, a bang, like the tablet hitting the floor, followed by dragging, and one final whisper. He's inside the walls. He's not 441. That's just a number. He's older than this place, older than names. The recording ended in a high-pitched shriek, so sharp it distorted the mic. I dropped the tablet. That sound wasn't human. An hour later, I confronted Hayworth. I told him everything. The mirror, the voice, Marla's recording. He didn't look surprised. He looked tired. I know, he said. I stared at him. What do you mean, you know? He sighed. I've heard him since the first night. The hum, the scratching, the dreams. I stopped resisting. I backed away slowly. What the hell are you talking about? Hayworth smiled. He chooses who sees. He chose you, Dylan. Then he turned and walked down the hall toward room 12. I hesitated only a moment before following, but when I reached the corridor, it was empty. Only the faint hum remained, and a fresh smear of blood, leading straight to the mirror. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw at the blood trail, Hayworth's empty stare, Marla's last words. He's inside the walls. By 3 a.m., the humming returned. Not just from the hallway, but from inside the vents, behind the plaster, under the floorboards. It moved, like breathing, wet, staggered breathing. I grabbed my flashlight and followed the sound, down the central hall and back to room 12. The mirror was still there, still intact. But it looked different, like it was pulsing. Then I saw it, a handprint, on the inside of the glass, faint, foggy, but unmistakable. I reached toward it, and the light flickered out. Darkness swallowed the room, and I swear I heard my name whispered from behind the mirror. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over the bookshelf. That's when I saw the hidden door again now, slightly ajar. Inside was no longer just blackness. It was depthy, corridor stretching impossibly far, too far, curving downward like a spiral. I should have run, but something pulled me in, not physically, mentally, like a hook in my thoughts, dragging me forward. The hallway reeked of mold and copper. On the walls, etched in frantic, overlapping scratches, were phrases. Between the ticks of the clock, 441 is the gate, but not the keeper. He wears your skin when you dream. Then the temperature dropped. So cold my breath turned solid in the air. And ahead, something moved. A silhouette. It looked like Marla. I ran after her, calling her name. Marla. She turned just her head. Her eyes were hollow. Her mouth stretched far too wide. Blood dripped from her ears like ink. And she laughed, not with sound, with air, like something else was laughing through her. Time is a lie here. Then she vanished into the shadows. Behind her, on the wall, etched deep. Now you see. I stumbled back, shaking, my light dimming again. Suddenly, a face appeared inches from mine. Pale, no lips, just teeth. It didn't blink. It whispered, "He's almost in." I fled the corridor, or thought I did. But when I emerged, I was no longer in room 12. This door led into the old electroshock chamber, a room we were never supposed to access. Even the blueprints said it was sealed. But here I was. The machines were covered in dust, but one was on, and in the center of the room was a chair straps broken, cushions clawed apart, and scrawled on the wall behind it in something dark and sticky. I never left. I stood frozen in the electroshock chamber. The hum was louder here, not mechanical, not electric, but alive. It vibrated through my ribs, gnawed at my thoughts. The walls throbbed like something was breathing just beneath the concrete. I turned to leave, but the door was gone. Just flat wall, no seam, no handle, no way out. Panic hit me like a wave. I screamed, pounded on the wall, tore at it until my hands bled. Then, from the corner of the room, the static voice returned, but this time it came from the machine. The old shot console sputtered to life. Its monitor flickered, displaying only one line, patient 441 unresolved. My legs gave out. That number, again, 441. Me, the machine, crackled louder. The wires trembled, and then a face formed on the screen. Not mine, not Hayworth, not Marla. Something older, pale skin, hollow eyes. A jaw that unhinged wider than should be humanly possible. It opened its mouth and screamed, a soundless, digital wail, and still, I heard it inside my head, behind my eyes. I blacked out. When I came to, I was lying on the floor of a different hallway, not room 12, not even the east wing. This place was older, stone floors, crumbling ceilings, rusted lanterns instead of light, and the smell rot and formaldehyde. The plaque on the wall read, Ward 9 closed since 1963. I couldn't breathe. This place wasn't on any of our maps. Hayworth had said it was sealed, condemned after a fire. No survivors, but here it was, intact, and worse active. I heard voices, whispers, chants, sobbing, then laughter high-pitched and looping like a broken recording. And something skittered past behind me. Fast, I turned, but nothing was there. Only a wall smeared with black fingerprints. Hundreds of them, like something had been clawing to get in. Not out. I walked slowly now, deeper into Ward 9. The cells here weren't rooms. They were holes, each one sealed by rusted grates, some bent outward, others inward. In one, I saw a wheelchair flipped over. In another, a child's shoe, still tied. Then I reached the end, cell 441. The door was wide open. Inside, mirrors, dozens of them, all cracked, all angled to reflect into one another, infinite tunnels of warped reflections. I stepped inside, and every mirror, every one showed a different version of me. One was laughing manically, one was crying blood. One stood motionless, but its eyes followed me. And the last one, it wasn't me at all. It stepped forward out of sync. Its mouth moved before mine, and it whispered, "You brought him back." I stumbled back from the mirror, heart racing. The reflection that wasn't mine tilted its head, mimicking me, but too late, like a corrupted echo. Its eyes were pitch black, swallowing the light. Then it smiled, and I felt it in my own face. Not just mimicry, it was wearing me. Copying from the inside out, I reached to touch the glass, and it moved before I did. "Get out," I screamed, slamming the mirror with my flashlight. The glass didn't crack, but the reflection did. Its face shattered, splitting like porcelain, revealing something underneath, something ancient, slick, pulsing skin, a mass of teeth, and a single, lidless eye. It whispered in my voice, "He never left. You let him in." Suddenly, every mirror in the room began vibrating, low at first, then building into a symphony of shattering frequencies. I dropped to my knees, hands over my ears, but the noise was inside me, screaming from behind my eyes. Each reflection twisted, turning into versions of people I'd seen. Marla Hayworth, the patient from the basement, the man in the chair, all of them smiling with mouths full of static. The walls pulsed. The floor dropped. I didn't return to my quarters. There was no point pretending this place obeyed logic anymore. I stayed in the maintenance wing, huddled behind overturned carts, an empty cabinet, flashlight flickering, Marla's last tape clutched in my hand. Something had shifted. Time moved differently now. My wristwatch ticked backward. Hallways looped into themselves. My own footsteps echoed seconds before I moved. And worst of all, the mirrors had changed. Every reflective surface, windows, water, metal, now shimmered faintly, like they breathed. I avoided them at first, but then I saw one in the hallway near the nurse's station shattered on the floor, shards scattered, and in each fragment, a different version of me stared back. Some were screaming, some bleeding. One just smiled without eyes. Then, one fragment moved, It reached out. I ran. The power failed entirely around 2 a.m. No lights, no backup generator hum, just silence, until a soft sound broke it, tapping, like nails, against glass. It came from every direction. Dozens of taps in rhythmic pulses, like something trying to get out, I found an old lantern in the boiler room, barely working, but enough to navigate. I had to find the control hub, maybe reset power, maybe send a signal. The hub was 2 floors down, through Ward 3, a section supposedly cleared years ago after a fire. But the fire hadn't cleared anything. The hallway was scorched black, the ceiling sagging, pipes rusted, but something had drawn symbols on the walls. Charcoal, ash, and what smelled like blood. He sees through glass. Break them, and he follows. Reflect nothing. OR, he reflects you. I kept moving, past burned beds and melted equipment, until I reached the control room. Or what was left of it. Everything was fried. Panels smashed. Screens cracked. And, on the far wall, written in deep gouges, "The spiral is inside you now." Then I heard it. Laughter. My own voice mocking me from behind a broken computer monitor. I turned slowly, and saw myself standing in the doorway. But it wasn't me. The eyes were too wide, the smile too long. It tilted its head, and said, "Your face fits well. I think I'll keep it." I ran. I didn't look back. My duplicate, that thing wearing my face, just stood there, grinning in the dark, letting me go like it wanted me to run. And somehow, that was worse. Every hallway turned unfamiliar. Lights flickered from rooms that didn't exist before. I passed a door labeled Room 441, then passed it again and again. The hospital had turned in on itself an impossible loop, a spiral. I collapsed near the intake ward, gasping, only to see the mirror again, the same one from Room 12. But now it was shattered, and inside each shard I saw versions of myself, screaming, begging, trapped. Each one in a different corridor, each one still searching. That's when I understood. I'd never left. I never could. A voice echoed all around me, deep, layered, ancient, not from a mouth, from the walls themselves. He who has no name cannot be named. He who is seen cannot be forgotten. You opened the door. Suddenly, the ground split beneath me. I fell through darkness, mirrors, whispers, memories, and landed in room 27. The room we swore didn't exist. The walls pulsed, breathing. In the center was a chair, the same as in the electroshock chamber. Only this one was alive. Tubes slithered like veins, and behind it stood the figure, tall, hollow-eyed. No face, just skin stretched where features should be. A mouth that opened vertically, like a wound. It spoke without speaking. You carried me in your thoughts. You spoke my name when you denied I had one. That's all it took. I screamed, I don't even know if it was out loud, because my body didn't move. I looked down and realized I was already in the chair, strapped, bound. The figure stepped forward, placing its hand cold and wet against my chest. The others ran, you followed. You fed me with your fear. One by one, faces appeared in the walls. Marla Hayworth, the child from Ward 9, all whispering. No one escapes. The spiral.
Fear spiral.